David Brewster here with the 3 for All, and this is 3 Alexi Laiho Licks from 2007. And I have to admit, when I saw the news yesterday that Alexi passed away, it bummed me out, and it immediately made me time travel. And I thought back to the early 2000s when I lived in the Evansville area, and some of the students that I was teaching at that time. I remember that was my introduction to Alexi Laiho and Children of Bodom. And I thought, at that time, too, you have to think back if you were, playing guitar and around back then, there was a real drought of real guitarists, like guitar solos and shredding. Of course, we still had Satriani and Steve Vai and players like that that were already established and on the scene. But as far as new players and new bands, it was like right after the new metal push with Korn and Limp Bizkit and some of those groups, which I really wasn't a big fan of that style of metal. But then when I heard Children of Bodom, Atreyu, Avenged Sevenfold, Dragon Force, and those early 2000s when they hit, I was like, oh my gosh, shredding has made a comeback. String skipping and tapping and these, guitar solos. And I was so blown away. And definitely Alexi's style. I can hear, like Zakk Wylde and Dimebag and some of that influence, but I hear Randy Rhoads in there too, big time. Some of his phrasing and the sequences and stuff, it's very, very reminiscent of Randy Rhoads. And my ears just kind of locked onto that, like, hey, I think this guy's a Rhoads fan. I did see Children of Bodom live back in 2009. That was in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was a Lamb of God concert. But let's see, As I Lay Dying, God Forbid, Municipal Waste, Children of Bodom, who else was there? Job for a Cowboy, I think, was there, and then Lamb of God. So it was like this big metal concert. And I remember, it started early in the afternoon and just started trucking along with all these bands, kind of taking the stage. And I distinctly remember when Children of Bodom came out, I was familiar with the band because of my students, but I'd never seen them live. And when they came out, I remember Alexi stood perfectly, like right in the middle of the stage, and he was almost kind of hugging his microphone stand. He didn't move hardly at all. He was just kind of propped up, playing and singing, and barely moved. And I was in the crowd, and I thought, man, he looks like he might be in pain or something. And then about halfway through their set, he announced that he'd fallen out of the bus bunk, in their tour bus, and he thought he broke his hip. And I'm standing there thinking he's got a broken hip, and he's singing and playing his ass off. And I was blown away. The crowd just went nuts when they, announced that. And I was really impressed. I thought, wow, this guy is injured, and he is still playing guitar like a madman and singing, lead vocals at the same time. It was unreal. So when I heard the news yesterday and I started putting this lesson together, I found a lot of footage online of Alexi just jamming and shredding and in the studio and on stage and, Guitar World lessons and, the Rock House method, instructional videos and all this different stuff that he did. And I was trying to find material, like some good solos or, maybe just him shredding or something. And I stumbled upon this footage of him recording and tracking guitar solos for an album from 2007 called Guitar Heroes. And on that album, I think he played a guitar solo in a song called 12 Monkeys, I think. And then he also had a song called Sioux City Sarsparilla. And that's where these licks actually came from. So I found it, and it's very candid. I mean, you can see he's got his hair pulled back, and he's wearing a hat, and he's in the control booth, in the studio. And he's literally, like fleshing out his guitar solo, and they're kind of running through, the tracks, and he's kind of, I guess they're kind of like, punching him in and stuff, and he's just like whipping out all these licks and like kind of getting a feel for his lead or whatever. You can kind of see that he's fleshing it out as he's going and just jamming, and it's really loose and free-formed and candid, and I liked it, where I thought, man, this is like behind the scenes. Okay, with the first lick, I'm actually just going to show you like the main riff or the head of Sioux City Sarsparilla, and the footage is kind of chopped up, like whoever was filming it was kind of starting and stopping, so you don't really have the full performance of the song. It's just bits and pieces and licks and some different things. But in this footage, this little clip I'm going to play, you'll hear part of this riff I'm going to show you, and then you'll hear this wicked tapping lick that we're also going to look at. So I'm kind of recycling this footage, and I wanted you to kind of hear a little bit of this riff and also get a visual and kind of hear, the tapping lick too. So here's the clip with part of the riff and a tapping lick, which is going to be the next lick, like lick number 2. But here we go. And as far as the full guitar part, it's something like this. Really cool. So one more time there. So it's really interesting, and we're basically, starting with the open D, and it is kind of working off that open D string. And it starts here. This really ends up being a great, picking workout, fret hand workout, if you use it as a warm-up, and it really is kind of a riff, but it's so aggressive, and it's almost kind of a lead, at the same time. So we've got this, really slow. And then you're gonna come down and grab this. Really interesting kind of twist right there. And then you're going to position shift way up here. So right there. And you want to basically do a pinch harmonic on that 12th fret bend. And then repeat that first part. And then right here, totally reminds me of Randy Rhoads right there. Big Rhoads influence. Anyway, the next time you're going to do this. It's almost like the first time, but you're going to basically slide into that A right there. And then go back here. And then right there. Interesting, very dynamic, and very challenging riff, but really cool. The next lick is that crazy tapping lick. So let's watch the tapping lick clip again so you can kind of hear it one more time. And it's insane, but once we kind of break it down, you'll see there is kind of a method to the madness behind this lick. And Alexi definitely had these crazy intervallic, he would string skip, sometimes, and then he would do these crazy intervallic tapping licks too. So it's kind of a signature, idea or lick from Alexi Laiho. But here's the clip. Okay, that was way too fast. So let's slow that down, half speed, and that way you can actually kind of see and hear, the lick. Here's the lick in question, and it's terrifying. It reminds me of Buckethead with this intervallic, just wicked sound. But something like this. One more time. So it's really interesting. We're basically, if you're wondering what this is, because it sounds like, some crazy, outer space, alien science fiction music or something. But it's basically D minor pentatonic. And I know that does not sound pentatonic at all, but it is. Because your left hand is basically playing out of the box right here. And then your right hand is tapping, a different position of D minor pentatonic. So your left hand is playing around with this. And your right hand is playing around with this. And you kind of put them together and you can kind of see, the pattern, at least like where you're tapping and where you're fretting, with your fret hand. So really slow, we're starting with a hammer on from nowhere between that D and F, and then you're going to tap this A note right there. And that's the basic sequence right there. Because you're just going to kind of cascade down the strings and continue, that pattern of notes. So really slow, we're doing... And there's another hammer on from nowhere right there, which is tricky. And then that's, you know, the basic pattern. You're going to mimic that right here. And mimic it again. And then mimic it one more time right here. And you're ending on that D note right there. I think Alexi was actually, you know, kind of using one finger. I think he might have been using more than one, you know, right-hand finger. I usually just kind of play with two fingers when I do licks like that. But a brilliant lick. I really like the way it's put together. The next lick is from the same song, but there's no footage of the lick. But when I heard, you know, I kind of sat and listened to Sioux City Sarsparilla, and check out the song. It's a great, you know, instrumental, you know, metal tune. But when I heard the song, this lick just kind of, you know, stood out. And there's a lot of great licks in that tune. There's a lot going on. But when I heard this, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to include that. So unfortunately, there's no, you know, video footage for this lick. But we can break it down. You can definitely find the song on YouTube. You just can't find footage of him actually playing it. But the lick is something like this. One more time. And it's kind of like a F sharp minor 11, kind of F sharp minor 7, you know, but we're playing with the fourth in there too. So really slowly you can see there's some string skipping going on too. I like this. It's also targeting that flat 5 up there. Really tasty. And I also like how he's targeting the fourth, you know, this B note right there, because we're in F sharp minor. But he's targeting this B, and he also targets an octave higher at the end of the lick. So he's kind of sneaking, you know, kind of a sneak peek before you actually finish that phrase. And I also like the way he kind of shifts into that final phrase. So right there you can see we're grabbing F sharp, A, B, C sharp, and then jumping over to the high E string and grabbing F sharp up there. And then repeat that first 4 notes, like that first motif, and then end on E right here on the 17th fret on the B string. And then the last time, grab that E, shift to F sharp, grab that A, grab the C, and then end on B. But really cool lick. I like that phrase. So cool. Okay, here's a bonus lick from this kind of candid footage in the studio, and it's an ascending D minor pentatonic sequenced, you know, run. And we've seen licks like this, you know, from other guitarists and other episodes on this channel, but this is Alexi's turn to kind of twist this lick around. And keep in mind, he's also using his signature ESP, which has 24 frets. I don't have a 24 fret guitar in my studio, so I'm lacking, you know, a couple frets here. But I'm gonna basically end it on this D note and bend it, you know, kind of wildly. But Alexi actually goes to the next position and grabs, you know, that really high E up there. So I had to modify it ever so slightly, but this is the basic idea, like this. One more time. So we're basically connecting different positions of D minor pentatonic, and we're, you know, starting here on the C note, and you're going to do this. So you're going to grab that C and then roll up to the high E and then descend those 2 strings. Go to the next position and you're right here. Next position, you're right here. And right there you're going to shift slide into that C note for the next position. And then right there, run out of fret, so I'm going to grab that D and bend it. But of course Alexi has, you know, 2 more frets than I do, so he goes a little bit higher to that next position. But that's basically what's going on with this lick. You know, really cool. And you know, I've heard licks, you know, similar. It kind of reminds me of Zach Wild a little bit and some other players like that. But I do like that extra little shift that he kind of added in there too, which it kind of makes it pop out. One more time. that's going to wrap this look at 3 Alexi Laiho licks from 2007. And definitely, you know, the news that broke yesterday, you know, bummed, I'm sure, everybody watching this out. It bummed me out. And it was just like, not another guitar hero. You know, we've lost so many people, you know, last year, and we're just, you know, kind of breaking into this year. And we've already been hit, you know, with a big loss where it's like, no, man, he's like a modern guitar hero. You know, those guys are supposed to stick around for a long time. But, you know, it sucks. And definitely, you know, I remembered the concert. I remember students I'd worked with and music. I remember those early days, you know, the Guitar Hero video game and, you know, reading Guitar World magazine and seeing his lessons and stuff in there. And it was like he just kind of appeared, you know, like one minute he wasn't there. The next minute it seemed like he was everywhere, where it's like he's in magazines, he's got instructional videos, you know, touring the world and releasing all these albums. And Bodom put out a lot of material, and they have a lot of albums, which is great because you can go through, you know, Children of Bodom's albums, and it's like, man, there's great solos and riffs and good music, great songs, and he's singing. You know, it's like, man, what a force to be reckoned with, and it's such a shame. But I definitely want to pay tribute to him in this episode, and just kind of talk a little bit. You know, I did see him live and had a little bit of experience, you know, working on his music with students, and definitely it hit me where I thought, man, not another one. So anyway, leave some feedback and some comments. Please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content material. Thank you.